Hello and welcome to All for United. We are back again. This is a Wednesday evening. It's a midweek show. After a little bit of a gap due to scheduling, to be honest with you, quite difficult to get the times in for this one. But we are back and we still have our week in review. We were hoping to get this on Sunday, but it was a late one, wasn't it? Very late. 7 o'clock, people got work the next morning and really wants to listen to us at 10 o'clock. Do you? Is that really what you want to be doing with your life? I'm not sure it is. So we moved that on Monday then. We were too busy on other channels, and Tuesday I had work to go to, but today is a Wednesday and we are all yours. So we've got ourselves a little crack panel together to have a little look at the week in review, and of course sort of the next couple of days coming up with the transfer window slamming shut as well. So let's have a look at the guys that we've got with us. Daz, lovely to have you back on the show. How are you doing, sir?
Well,
There you go.
I like midweek. I'm good. I like midweek, especially when football's on, because you've kind of got something to look forward to. I think we will know for sure that we're moving on in the Europa League, in the top 8, which saves us 2 fixtures. We'll know if anyone else is coming in by the end of the week. So quite an exciting week. I'm quite happy this week.
Lovely. Matt, how about for you? Is all well with you?
Yeah, really good. Just like Dad said, really, it's nice to have a bit of midweek football on, and obviously got United to look forward to tomorrow, which hopefully should be on paper a fairly straightforward game, but it's United, so who knows?
Well, exactly. It is United, so who knows? There's a few things that we need to run the rule over, but we're not going to spend all evening on it. Obviously, we've got the Rangers at the Europa League. I think we will pop to that one probably second. I think I kind of want to go to the Fulham game first, if I'm honest with you, because I don't feel like there's going to be a huge number of talking points on that one. I've put it on here as Martinez rescues Fulham at Snoozeathon. It was. I mean, Matt, I know you were at the women's game, but I had the women's game on my iPad. I had the men's game on the laptop. And I was thanking the Lord that we had the women's game, because if I didn't have the women's game to watch, I'd have nodded off again. It really, I watched some bad ones under Van Gaal and Mourinho, but my God, I mean, Daz, that was hard work, wasn't it?
I think it was a worrying one for me because, I mean, like you say, we've seen some bad games over the last 10 years, and I genuinely watched it and thought this guy could get us relegated. And I genuinely thought that that's the sort of performance, especially after the losses that we've had, where you say, how have we come to this? It's so boring. And I mean, I messaged Andy halfway through the game. There was a moment in the game where we intercepted the ball in their final third, and their first reaction was to pass it all the way back to the goalkeeper. And I'm like, I mean, looking back to the Ollie days, Ollie would have just come out and said, you're one pass away from a goal-scoring opportunity. There's no reason to take the ball all the way back to your goalkeeper. I understand knocking it back into midfield, to maybe look for another ball, but there's no reason to pass it all the way back to the goalkeeper. And it just seemed like there was when we did get the ball, Man United didn't want to do anything with it. We was waiting for Fulham to do something, who happened to be that sort of team that don't have the quality to attack you, in the same way that other teams would. So it was sort of like a stalemate game because they didn't have the quality to do a great deal, and Man United was waiting for them to do something. It was just a worrying game for me because these players should have gone into that game with a little bit of desire to actually want to win the game, and there was nothing.
There really was nothing. I mean, Matt, I assume you caught up on the game. I mean, the highlights, I think, probably lasted about 30 seconds. There wasn't a shot on target until the 77th minute. And I don't actually know what to say about it. It was that poor that, I mean, it's a deflected goal as well. It's a good effort from Martinez, but what on earth is going on? I mean, we'll talk about the Rangers game, like I say, but I mean, where was the effort? Where was the press? Where was where was any of it? There just didn't seem to be anything there from United at all.
No, I feel like it's kind of a reoccurring theme at the moment. And obviously, it's nothing against Damrim. Obviously, he's coming in trying to instill a completely new style of play with what he's sort of inherited. But every game, you sort of sit there and watch it and think they're in situations, and like Dad said, to pass it back to the goalkeeper, and you kind of sit there and wonder, well, why are you playing it all the way back when you've literally got no reason to pass it back and just play a ball forward? And there's always an obvious pass on that everyone can see, and for some reason they can't seem to see it. Whether that's someone out wide in space, whether it's just someone right near them, it just always goes back to the keeper. Whether that's the instruction from the coaches, who knows? But it just seems a reoccurring theme, and it's happening quite a lot. And it just becomes quite predictable. Which I think is probably one of the main reasons why we're probably struggling quite a lot to break teams down as well, and actually create chances, because teams are just staying in shape, and we're allowing them to do that by just playing the ball in sort of like the back three, back five, so to speak. So yeah, it's frustrating to watch. I'm hoping it will get better, obviously, as we start bringing his own players in that are more suited to that system. I'm hoping. But yeah, obviously I was at the women's games, so I can't comment too much on it as a whole. But obviously I was keeping track of the score. I kind of sat there looking, it was 0-0, 60 odd minutes. I thought there's going to be no chance for a goal there. Looking the way it's going. And obviously Martinez comes up with a strike, which again was a deflection, like you say. But it was a much needed goal, because the performance in itself, from what I've seen, was nowhere near good enough.
No, not even close. I mean, we'll go to the goals. I call them goals because there probably should have been a second. Daz, first of all, what did you make of the Martinez effort? Why has it taken our centre back to have a dig from distance that tested their goalkeeper? And what did you make of the Ahmad opportunity? Do you think that was offside, or do you think that we were a bit lucky there?
I think I can forgive young players for missing opportunities like that. I can forgive young players because it's part of their development. And you're not going to score them all. Obviously, even the best forwards, Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe, they're missing stuff as well. So missing is part of the game. So you can forgive, missing a couple of opportunities. As for the goal, it's strange, because I was actually saying to my brother today that how strange is that Manchester United's number one goal scoring threat happens to be a centre-back, Martinez. It just seems to be the only person that wants to score a goal. I mean, he's taking opportunities from 18 yards out, 20 yards out, and you haven't always got to score them. Obviously, he was quite fortunate enough to score that. I think it took a tip off the goalkeeper's hand, had it there, the crossbar to go in. But sometimes taking shots from out wide frustrates the goalkeeper. You might get a corner from that. The goalkeeper might get a hand to it, knock it out, and then you get the follow through. But you've got to take them shots. So I'm just glad that the one part of this system that I am seeing is that his defenders, especially Lisandro Martinez and what seems to be Harry Maguire, seem to be in a high enough position to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, well, again, Ahmad, did you think he was offside or not?
What was that? Sorry, Barry?
Ahmad Diallo, his goal that he scored, did you think he was offside?
I'm not sure. I've not watched it back. It was, because it was one of them games where I was just waiting for it to end. And I'm just, and I'm just like, so I was sort of expecting it just, I'm sort of, the game's sort of a blur, because I'm blurred into the couple of goals that was disallowed against, the goal against Rangers. So in my head, I've mixed the two games up, and I think that's just because of how boring the Fulham game was. There's nothing in my head that's making remind me of it. And I mean, Andy said something to me, something that happened in the game, and I'm like, did that happen? And I'm like, you know what I mean? My brain just blurred into the Rangers game as well.
Okay. Well, we're going to go back to the Rangers game in a minute, so you'll feel comfortable when we get to that. But Matt, same sort of question for you, really. The Martinez goal, a bit of fortune to it, but as they say, if you want to win the lottery, you've got to buy a ticket, and that's exactly what Martinez did. So yeah, same two questions. Did you Well, do you lament the fact that it is our centre back who has pulled us out of trouble? And yeah, what did you think of the Ahmad effort? Because certainly, looking at where the lines have been drawn and such, like, people are not convinced that it was quite at the right time.
Yeah, I think the fact that obviously you rely on a centre back, it happened against, I think it was against Liverpool as well. He came out, obviously, he sort of like was found himself in a striker's position and obviously pulled off a good strike as well. But it's quite worrying the fact that we're having to rely on a centre back, albeit we don't care who scores the goals generally. But it is worrying the fact that we're relying on a centre back to score a goal, and they seem to be doing that a lot more frequently than our strikers do. Which in itself is a worry. I think the main thing to look at, and the way you can look at it, is I think we just need to start taking more risks as a team. I feel like they're playing it a bit overcautious at the moment, which again leads back to just playing the ball back to the keeper and playing it safe quite a lot. I think this needs to take more chances. Like Dad said, the more you shoot, the more likely you are to score goals. And if you're not shooting...
I think that's coached, though, Matt. I was actually saying the other night that I think it's coached, but I think that he's looking for that ball. You know, the perfect example is the goal that Grokeres scored for Sporting against Man City, where the ball came straight over. You catch the team with the high line, and then he just runs like out of L one-on-one with the goalkeeper. It's as if he's coaching his team and he's just looking for that all of the time, and that's the only way that he wants to score goals, which shows his inexperience as a manager. And again, that worries me a little bit, because you can do that against the teams like Arsenal, Liverpool, because they play that high line and you can catch them like that. But you can't do that week in, week out. You've got to find different ways of scoring goals. And I think that there's enough players in that team to score different goals. You know, you don't always need to score that one goal. And people are talking about the Højlund, and I'm like, but they're trying to play Højlund like you'd play Lukaku, back to the goalkeeper, trying to find the wide players. Højlund can't play that sort of football. Højlund needs the ball in front of him, in front of goal, and let him go. He's that sort of Grokeres sort of player. That's how he needs to play. Xerxes looks better in this system because Xerxes is closer to the way Lukaku plays, which is more of a link-up player. And that's just a coaching issue for me. I don't think it's a striker issue. You know, you've got to use the right tools sometimes, but he's got to show different ways to want to score. And I think the biggest issue for me is I think it's coached.
Did you finish, Matt, or did you have more to say?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Like I say, it's just more risk taking, I think. Whether that's, like I say, it could even be down to a lack of confidence in the team. But like Dad said, I suppose that's something that the coaches now need to try and get out of the players. Obviously, at the very least, until he can start bringing players in that he wants that will be better suited to the way he plays. But in terms of the Ahmad goal, it did look quite a tight one. I've seen quite a lot of people on social media, obviously like instant reaction, obviously after the women's game was quite mixed, and quite a lot were saying that they weren't convinced he was offside. But I feel like in one of them games, you kind of like, you just wanted it to end, whether it was 1-0, you just wanted to get out of there with the 3 points after watching what sounded like a really drab performance.
I mean, it was pants. I mean, it's one of those, again, when you look at where they pause it, is it exactly when the ball is kicked? It goes back to that argument, because it's, again, so ridiculously tight with the lines. But, you know, as the line's drawn, it is offside. So in the end, it didn't cost us. So it wasn't the end of the world, but it certainly would have made it. I mean, for a start, I had him on double figures, so that would have been nice for him. But it would have been no different to us, really. It just would have added one to the goal difference. So that's Fulham gone and in the record books, and thank God for that, because I don't really want to talk about it again. It was absolutely bony. So we're going to take a little bit of a Europa League focus now for the next little section of the show. We're going to look back, obviously, on the game against Rangers quickly before looking ahead to tomorrow's game against Bucharest, and then, of course, what that entails and what that means for us. So let's roll it back to Rangers. Again, we're not going to go into it goal by goal and all that sort of thing. We can just put our opinions across. But again, just not ideal, is it? I mean, the first goal, bit of luck. Jack Butland with he had a few good saves prior to that, to be fair to him, but punches it into his own net. I have never. I've watched a lot of football and I've seen a lot of own goals, but I've never seen someone punch it and it goes backwards. I've never seen it. Like, that was impressive, I've got to say. I don't have any other word.
I was more shocked that it was Butland as well, because Butland's
Yeah.
not an elite level goalkeeper, but he doesn't make mistakes like that very often. He's normally
was
quite a
shocked.
steady Eddie goalkeeper.
I was shocked it was Butler, not because I thought he was of any decent caliber, but because he's going that way. There's no way the ball's like there was some sort of David Blaine magical stuff going on there.
Connect
But when you
right
watch
as well.
it is.
It even connect. It was like they sort of defied the laws of physics, because when
did.
I actually paused the ball and I actually hit it quite nice, so there was no reason why it shouldn't have gone up. Maybe the football gods wanted to give Man United a break
They
and
must have done.
gives it a bit of a tip. Maybe an invisible Maradona was there somewhere.
Must have done, because that was absolutely mad. And we looked like we had it all the way through, but of course we didn't, because we do like to make life a bit difficult. With a couple of minutes to go, they equalised, and of course they're thinking that's it. But Captain Bruno pulls us out of the mire with, again, I think it was the balls from Martinez, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
and there was Bruno Fernandes, the captain at the far post, to just smash it into the back of the net, and we got 3 very important points. But again, Matt, I suppose we'll come to you first on this one. Just another game where we scraped through it by the skin of our teeth, possibly more through luck and sheer bloody mindedness than actual skill.
Yeah, it's been an issue for quite a while now, a number of years, just struggling to kill games off that you're on top of. You sort of, up until the Rangers goal, you didn't feel like they were necessarily going to get that equaliser. I felt as though we were in control for majority of the game up until the equaliser. But it's just typical United. They dominate a game, try to hold on to a 1-goal lead. They can't seem to get the second goal, and then obviously make it 3, maybe 4, possibly, because the chances were there to do so. I just feel like, again, is it a confidence thing? Is it a coaching thing? I don't know. But every game, there seems like a reoccurring theme every game at the moment. And we just seem to be making hard work of everything, no matter who we're playing against, no matter what team he puts out. Every player on the pitch just seems to be struggling for whatever reason it may be. And yeah, it's just another prime example of obviously struggling. They go and get the equaliser, which probably surprised nobody, to be totally honest. And then obviously rely on Bruno to pull us out the mud once again, like he's done many times over the last few years. So yeah, that's not much else I can say really, other than same old every game at the moment, which is really frustrating. I just hope they can turn it around and just start showing something different.
No, I think you're right. It is a bit frustrating. Daz, you said you've seen the games against Rangers and the game against Fulham just sort of merge into one. And I suppose because it was just 2 not great performances, both of which we've escaped out of by the skin of our teeth.
I actually thought we had a decent game. I think we had 3-4 really good goal scoring opportunities that we really should have been putting the ball away, especially against a team like Rangers. And actually, if we'd have won that game 5-1, it'd have been a completely different conversation. I think that's the sort of game where Jim Ratcliffe sits in the crowd and says, that team needs a goal scorer. That team needs a goal scorer, because they could have won that game 4-5-1 easily. And obviously the goal came from a bit of a howler from Harry Maguire. I'm going to forgive him for it, because he's actually I thought he had quite a good game. It was just maybe a bit ill-timed from him. Maybe he went up just a little bit too early. Maybe he was a little bit too far forward. But every player makes mistakes, and I've not seen Harry Maguire make one for a while. So, you know, you can forgive and forget a little bit with that. But, you know, I get what Matt's saying, the same pattern in the way that we want to play. I just feel as if because we was playing a team that I don't think are a Premier League quality in Rangers, naturally you're going to get more chances anyway, but you've got to be finishing them. But for me, coming away from that game, I think Jim Ratcliffe should have been picking the phone up, whether he can beg, borrow, or steal a striker from somewhere. It doesn't matter whether he's got a loan, £10 million or £100 million. He needs to bring a striker in and someone that can. I mean, I actually suggested, I know we're going to do the transfers later, someone like Borja Saints from Norwich. Not because I think he's a top quality player, but because he's in the habit of scoring week in, week out. And I think sometimes having a player that's got the habit of scoring will find goals, if that makes sense. You know, when they're just scoring becomes natural to you, that just becomes a habit. And I think we could get him for 15, 20 million pounds. Yes, he's a championship player, but right now we're not getting that 80 million pound striker that we need. We just need somebody that can score 10 goals that we're not getting. And that's a game for me where you realise that the biggest issue in that team isn't a left back, it's a goal scorer. We've coped without a left back. We're not coping without a goal scorer.
I've been telling the world we need a goal scorer now for what feels like about a year. Nobody listens to Barry, but that's fine. I tend to agree. To be honest with you, it wasn't a terrible performance, but we weren't finishing, and that is exactly the problem. You know, you can play as well as you want and be as good defensively as you want. If you're still struggling to put the ball in the net, you're going to struggle to get 3 points. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, it's a big one. I think just before we move on to looking at tomorrow's game and specifically the ramifications of that, another interesting thing there, the number of Rangers fans that managed to make it into the home ends. Now, when you're sitting here talking about a club that is trying to charge its fans potentially up to £66 for people to come and get in there, when you see season ticket holders unable to swap their tickets and give them to people that they know are fans, when you see this buyback thing that's going on, why is it, do we think, that we were able to be in a situation where we had Rangers fans stood up in Manchester United end and cheering? Because sometimes getting a Man United ticket can be one of the hardest things on the planet. Why is it then that we're in a situation where Rangers have been able to get some of their fans in there, and as a result, we've ended up with, you know, bits of violence breaking out, and purely down to the fact that, and again, you look at the stewards, they're telling the people in the Stretford end to sit down, don't sing, don't get a camera out, don't do this, don't do. But they can't kick out a bunch of fans that shouldn't be there because it's not segregated properly. Matt, you've been to a few of the games. What on earth's going on?
I can't even understand what the club are even trying to do. It's all very confusing. It's almost like they're trying to phase. Well, I've heard people say they're trying to phase obviously the match-going fans, the season ticket holders out to an extent. But I think this thing about the away fans being in home end, it's not the first time it's happened, particularly during a lot of previous European games as well. I think it happened against, was it Galatasaray, and I think was it Copenhagen as well, within the last few months when we played them. At the end of the day, it just comes down to a health and safety issue first and foremost. Obviously, we've seen the scenes after the game against Rangers. But again, it just shows you where we are as a club. Decision making, just silly little things. And like you say, the ticket prices, which we've discussed before, are an absolute joke. And it was quite interesting to see he's actually been confronted about it. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it on social media, the video after the game. I can't remember which game, it was at the Fulham game, I think it was, in a car. There's fans literally up at the car window. And in fairness, he did put the window down and actually listen to what they were saying. Whether it probably went in one ear and out the other, which wouldn't surprise me. But again, it just shows you where we are as a club, and the decision making needs to be an awful lot better. Because everything, having stewards with cameras, I think I've seen as well, filming fans that are standing up and doing things they apparently shouldn't be doing, which you've been doing for years. It is getting beyond a joke. I just don't see how you can justify ticket prices. To watch a team that's not performing very well and a bit boring to watch most of the time, and ultimately, if away fans can get tickets that easily, why can't the fans that should be in the home end.
Well, exactly, and like you just said as well, I mean, with the team playing the way they are, I mean, can anyone genuinely say that game against Fulham was worth 66 quid? I wouldn't have given you £6.60. I wouldn't have let you paid me 66 quid. I think I'd rather just have the sleep. That's again, away fans in the home end. I mean, it just sums up where we are really at the moment, doesn't it? It's just a bit of a laugh and a joke.
Yeah, I mean, what everything Max said basically. I think the only couple of things I'd touch on is away fans in the home end isn't not uncommon in football. It's been happening for years, you know. It's always been happening. It's just that a club like Man United, it's amplified by 10 just because we're Man United. People want to write stories about it. There was no really bad stories about, you know, any big incidents happening, or, you know, as such, which not too bad. But I think as for the confrontation to Jim Ratcliffe, I'll always say this to anyone. Because he's the owner of the football club and he's the one that turns up to the football games, he has to hear the fans if they're going to say something to him. I understand that he's got every right to walk away from abusive football fans that are just being abusive. I wouldn't, you know, nobody deserves that. But if football fans are just talking to him and maybe a little bit, could argue a little bit aggressive, but he needs to understand that stuff's been happening at the football club and it's pissed fans off. And, you know, the way people are reacting to him, I don't think the comments that was made to him was bad. I think it was a little bit frustrating from the fans' point of view. You could hear it in his voice. I think it's people have got to be fair with Jim Ratcliffe as well, because he couldn't come out and say, I'm sorry, but the price rise is because they've messed the club up for 18 years, because they're actually still his business partner and he's still got to run the football club for that. So I think there's certain things that maybe he might want to say to the fans, but he knows it would ruin that working relationship with the Glazers if he did. That's one thing. And I think also, there was always going to be, and I don't agree with the ticket prices. I mean, we spoke about this in a previous show, that there's potentially other ways to save money and other ways to make money, but there was always going to be difficult decisions to make after 18 years of financial neglect, and Jim Ratcliffe was always going to get the backlash to, you know, them tricky decisions. Unfortunately, ticket prices is an obvious one. It's an easy one to increase because he knows that he's going to fill that stadium regardless to whether it's Man United fans, tourists coming in from China and America. He knows he's going to fill that stand regardless. So for him, he's a businessman, so he's not bothered about a season ticket holder. He's just wants every ticket being sold every game. He's a businessman at the end of the day, and I get that, but I think it's just that fans just need to remember that not everything that he's doing is his fault. Sometimes it's the fallout to 18 years of the Glazers being in charge.
If I'm honest, I think you're letting him off the hook way too early there. I think genuinely charging £66 for a football match is an absolute outrage. The geezer's lost the plot, and where he loses the plot for this one, it isn't about we're trying to fix a hole. The hole is of the making of the Glazers, who have milked this club dry to line their own pockets, and they can't expect the fans to fill the hole that they created, and that's the problem. The problem isn't, can you help us to get a few quid to get profit and loss sorted out? That's not what they're asking. What they're asking is they want us to fix the problems they've made, and they can argue, yep, we've given you the money for the transfers, and they've done all of that, they've kept that going, but it doesn't change the fact for me that at the end of the day, Glazers are the one that spent the money. Glazers are the one that put us in the financial hole that we're in. It shouldn't be fans having to bail out the club who didn't want the sale to the Glazers to happen in the first place. So,
yeah, I think it's the worst time to increase the prices to 66 because of the 66 because of the mood of the fans, and actually because of the position that we're in.
Also because it's a cost of living crisis. Football has got enough money. It's an absolute fallacy to say there's not. You've got Marcus Rashford. I love the guy. 300 grand a week. If you can afford to pay somebody £300,000 a week, stop thinking about needing £66 to sit in a. We're the people that should be able to afford to pay to watch a game of football. The minute you start pricing normal fans out of the game is the minute the game's gone, because they're the lifeblood of your support. And nobody wants the prawn sandwich brigade back. Nobody. It's not going to work. Pathetic. If you just got a bunch of people sitting there, yeah, United, where's the emotional attachment that you're supposed to get between the players and the fans? It won't happen.
I think it's everything, though. I think it's everything. It's not even just the ticket price. It's like all the all the is it 200 odd members of staff that he's sacked as well, that he's laid off.
Okay.
Obviously, I get it. He's got to come into an extent and do certain things. I get that. But the fact that you can do things like that, up ticket prices, but then, like you said, I said it all along. I've been saying it for weeks to mates and family, etc. The fact that you can pay all these players that are underperforming or not even playing $200-300 grand a week and expect the fans to pay £66 that are there week in, week out, getting behind the team. Complete joke. Absolutely.
You know what? I think they could have handled it better. You know, they could have said, we're going to increase the ticket prices, not to £66, but to maybe the £50 mark, you know, it was an increase by, I know it's only £4 a ticket, but it all adds up, don't it? And then they would say, but you're not the only ones making a sacrifice. We're going to invest 15-20 million pound of our own money into the club, and together as a football community we're going to get the club where we want. And I don't think people would have got behind that, you know, if they would have, you know, I think like you say, they're making the fans pay for their mistakes, and that's not necessarily Jim Ratcliffe's fault, but he's part of the owner, and unfortunately he's going to get part of the stick for the last 18 years because the decisions he's making are not very pro fans. The fans are not happy with some of the decisions.
No.
So,
but then equally, he could have also turned around and said, you know what, we're not going to not just raise them, we're not going to raise them at all. In fact, actually, we're going to take a couple of quid off. He could have done that. He could, and the goodwill that would have bought him to have said we're going to try and buck the trend, I think would have been worth that little cut they were going to get. Because they probably would have got more. People that would have gone there might have bought that extra cup of tea. They might have gone and done something else because they're pumping money in there. Have you ever been in the mega store? Honestly, you go in there, you need to get yourself a second mortgage, a loan, and sell both of your kidneys.
Yeah.
Because like you buy a badge. The badge would be about 500 quid. If you think of buying a shirt, the shirt's about 100. You want to buy a pennant? Oh, that's £75.50. Like, genuinely, sometimes you walk out and you go, look what I bought. I bought a key ring. How much did that cost you? A week's wages. That is fun. It's ridiculous. You can't go there for a shopping spree. Like, literally, you walk in, you're lucky if you get one thing. And that is the drama. They are literally looking for the tourists and bleeding the pub dry out. It's not.
And I think the big thing is they're not helping the fans. I think, was it Brentford that didn't change their kit because they didn't want fans to fork another 100 quid out? I swear it was Brentford. I could be wrong. You know, even something like that where they say, we're not going to release a new shirt this year.
Exactly.
Because we want you guys to
but they do it every
get
year.
some value from the one you have bought.
Away, have a new third. Oh, we're going to look at this training top. Oh, we've done one that's based on the Stone Roses. Everything is about give us more. Give us more. And the kids are watching that going, I want this, I want this, I want this. And the parents have got to go, well, that's great, but I've only got a job doing this. I don't get enough money to buy all that. I can't even buy me one, let alone you. And the kids' prices, have you noticed, it's not quite as expensive to go and buy a kid's one, is it? Because they know that they'll get more of them. They're the ones that are more likely to purchase it. So,
but they're still charging kids £66 for a ticket, though.
Exactly that. When it comes to going to watch a match.
So they're making it up there, yeah.
Because there's no difference there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For a shirt, absolutely, that's easy money.
Yeah.
It's only cost them probably about 50p to make in the first place.
Yeah.
So charge 30 quid on that, your markup's lovely.
Yeah.
But with a ticket, if every seat's worth 66 quid, easy.
Yeah.
So there we go. But anyway, I think we all knew that the money men were going to be terrible. Let's take a little look at the Europa League because we digressed beautifully there into something that really happened. But the Europa League, as we said, at the moment we are in fourth place. Obviously, the top 8, as we know, make it through to not just the next round, but the round beyond. They get that bye, so they miss a 2-legged match, which would be absolutely beautiful because it's just 2 extra games that you don't really need. At the moment, Lazio guaranteed. We know they're going through, but everybody else below them could potentially drop out. Frankfurt and Bilbao looking pretty good, to be fair. So we have a problem. We'd still have a problem because we're going to qualify. We're through to the next round. Whatever happens, the question is, will we top 8 or not? I had a little look at the teams below and the teams they've got to play. Leon have got Ludogorets, you've got Spurs against Elfsborg, Anderlecht against Hoffenheim. Obviously, we've got Stour, Ajax playing Galatasaray, and Nice have got Bodo Glimt. And that's the thing, is that all of those people are below these teams. So as a result, if they were all to win and we lose, they would all jump in front of us. So although we are happily sat here at the moment in 4th, we could equally drop down to 10th or 11th quite easily. So equally though, if Pilsen did quite well against Bilbao, we could end up finishing the whole thing 2nd. So Steaua Bucharest, I know both of you seem to think that on paper we were going to smash that. What do you reckon? Will we win the game? Why do you think we'll win the game if you do? Because I'm worried. They're 8th. They've had quite a good little campaign as well. Do you think we'll finish in the top 8? Why do you think we'll finish in the top 8? And how important do you think it is that we do in terms of missing out on what is ultimately just 2 more games? Dads, we'll let you kick off on this one.
I don't think we'll lose. I don't think we'll lose, and I'll justify that because we're unbeaten in Europe this year. I think you've kind of got to justify it. We've been in worse positions between when the 2 managers switched. We played the likes of Porto. Yeah, we shouldn't have drew that game, but we did get a draw in that game. So we have played better teams and we have managed to pick up wins or draws against them. I think the Europa League needs to be, and I think Amarim's not stupid. Amarim knows that he's not going to get top 4 in the top 5 in the Premier League, which seems like that's going to be Champions League football. A push, if we turn things around, we could finish 9th, maybe 8th, and get Europa Conference League. But even that right now is not a given. I think and the FA Cup's a 50-50 thing. Even if we play well, we could still go out to a Liverpool that are flying at the minute, or a better team. So the Europa League, for me, especially now that the Champions League doesn't drop down into the Europa League, so the teams that we see are now the teams that are in there. On paper, Manchester United are the best team in that Europa League. Manchester United should be the favourites to win that, based on the team. Not the form. I think we have got the best team in there. I really think we have. I think we have got depth in certain places. I think if we solve the goal scoring problem, but then that being said, Rasmus Højlund's top goal scorer in the Europa League, so he's obviously scoring in the Europa League, just not anywhere else. I think if we can solve the goal scoring problem quick, whether that means we bring somebody else in over the next week, I think we could win it. And I think that we've gained a bit of momentum in there. We had them tricky draws at the start and some results have started coming out. I think that Rangers was a better game than people think because of the chances that we had. And there was good chances. I think he needs to rotate a little bit because we can't win the Europa League and finish 15th in the table. That would just look stupid, and would just be a laughing stock, even though we'd be in the Champions League next year. I think we do still need to have a top half finish in the Premier League. So I do think he's got to rotate tomorrow. I'd expect Lindelof to come back into the team. I'd like to see Bayinda start again. I think I want him to start every single Europa League game because I think I feel more comfortable with him being in goal personally. But yeah, I just think it's because maybe only Lazio, who are flying, obviously the top of the league, I don't see any team that would challenge us. I just don't, and I know that's naive when given the fact that we're having a really poor season. I know that's naive. The reason why Man United are putting better performances in the Europa League, the reason why Rasmus Højlund is scoring goals in the Europa League is because there's not actually that many of them that would make it in the Premier League. Lazio maybe, Frankfurt maybe, Porto maybe not this year, but in a normal year, Porto, but I think we're quite fortunate. Some of them teams have lost big players. Porto have dropped off dramatically. Lazio's goal scorer is tore his ACL, so their best players not available for him for the rest of the season. I just think a mixture of everything. and the fact that it is our route to European football next year, and I think Amaran's got to chuck everything, including the kitchen sink at it. I just think we're going to win. I think we're going to win or draw, and obviously that puts us in the top 8.
Absolutely gobsmacked. See the games we've watched over the last couple of weeks. Do the best of anything. I'm not entirely sure we'll be the best against the under-21s, to be honest with you, at this rate. But maybe I'm just a little bit grizzled and faded. Matt, what for you? What do you reckon? Because there's some good points made there by Daz. Rasmus is scoring a bit more in the Europa League, and we are unbeaten. I would add to that, so Galatasaray, and they're sat in 9th. So just being unbeaten in itself isn't necessarily the biggest and bestest way to get to the top 8. But very good points that he makes. What do you make of the Europa League, and do you think... actually, I'll change the question slightly as well. What did you think of the new format? Have you enjoyed it? Because I know there was a lot of controversy around it. But actually, I don't think it's turned out to be that bad.
No, it's something different. I think it's like anything that new that happens. It's just all about getting used to it. Like I say, over the next couple of years, and it happens frequently, and they stick with this new format going forward. I think it's something we will get used to. It's just because it's something new and something different to try and get your head around. But in terms of United, see, tomorrow you'd expect us to win the game based on the opposition, but. Like you said, Barry, I think a lot of it. I don't want to be too negative, but I feel like I can't go into any game at the moment with any sort of optimism, no matter who we're playing. You just feel like just that one moment, one mistake, one lapse in concentration, like against Rangers, and you can turn a win to a draw or a draw to a defeat just like that. With this team at the minute, it's so unpredictable. I think it's important that we do qualify, not so much because we could do without the extra games. Do we really want to be sat through 2 extra games at the moment with the way that they're playing? It's one of them. They just need to get through the game tomorrow, get the win, make sure they finish in the top 8, and get themselves straight through to the knockout stages and go from there, really. But at the minute, it's just a game by game basis at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So there we go. That is the Europa League sorted. Now, as you very well know, we're going to move on from that game at the weekend. We have got Crystal Palace in the Premier League, and then the week after, on the Friday evening, we have got Leicester in the FA Cup. So lots of things to look forward to. I say look forward to in inverted commas there. It might be that to endure them. But either way, we will be there because that's what supporting the club is all about. So lots coming up. But something that's come up really quickly is, of course, the end of the transfer window. That is literally just around the corner, as is ever the case. I'm pretty sure that is ending in a couple of days. So we need to talk about I think I've read and seen, certainly even on our own channel, because Matt, you've done a great job of putting out there all the potential rumours that have got maybe a little bit more to them in terms of journalistic credit, but so many names. As it stands, we believe we've done the paperwork for Diego Leon, but he's not going to be in until July 2025 anyway, so even if we have bought him, it's a bit of an irrelevance. The 2 that obviously you put out recently is Patrick Dortmund, who we believe is a left wing back, which is something that we probably do need. But then you also look at the fact that we've got Alvaro Fernandez being mentioned as somebody that we might go back for. We talk about embarrassment and making the club look silly, Daz. That to me is right up there with the, we'll just sell him. Actually, a year later, let's bring him back. That might be an idea. And of course, what a name as well, that Aiden Heaven as well. Hopefully that's where he's from, because we need some angels to come and help us out. But he's also a centre-back. And I would say that even if those are the things that we've done, there's been loads going on that with the transfer window. But there's no hiding the fact that we need teeth up front. Yeah. And at the moment, we don't have it. We're all gums. So What's going on? Why are we in this situation where we have not yet been able to do that? We sent Anthony off. He's gone on loan. So he's away from the club now. It's a little bit of money that's been freed up. Why have we not yet seen that many outgoings? You know, we've had Rashford's name in the press. People are saying that Xerxes and Højlund are up for sale if the right offer comes in. Casemiro is supposed to go to Saudi Arabia. He's still here. We've just got an absolute swathe of people that we were thinking were going to go because they don't fit the system. As ever, they're still here. Why? What's going on?
I think it's a very good question. I just don't think a lot of it's as straightforward as us as fans think. Also, we know the players that feel that we know sort of should be there and that you should not try and offload. I think a lot of it just comes down to A, interest in the players, and B, the wages that they're on. For me, the wages, we all knew that was going to be a major sticking point with a lot of these players. Obviously, past mistakes from the previous regime, handing out £200-300 a week contracts for players that didn't necessarily deserve that sort of wage. So yeah, a lot of it just comes down to A, like I say, interesting. Are these players good enough to improve clubs that may be interested in them, and are they willing to sacrifice and pay the wage that they're on? Because a lot of these players, let's be honest, they're not going to go to other clubs and be on less money when they can stay at United and sit on the bench and be paid £200-300 a week. It's common sense for the players. I get that from the players' point of view, because if we was the same, we'd do exactly the same thing if you were there for the money. I think that's the main reason. I think a lot of it's just the wages. It's the old structure is having a massive effect, and obviously they're coming in. Ineos have come in and trying to shift what they can. Obviously, Anthony's only gone out on loan. Obviously, it's freed up some wages, but again, he's back with us at the end of the season. Can they find a move for him permanently if that's what the plan is? It's a lot going on. But I think in terms of the incomings, it is all dependent on the outgoings. I think these PSR rules, where they've got to have so much coming in before and so many players going out before coming in, which I don't understand because Chelsea have the biggest squad ever. And I have no clue how they're even getting away with it at this point. So yeah, in terms of a striker, we do need a striker because if we want aims, aspirations of trying to win the Europa League maybe or defend the FA Cup again, I just don't see us doing that with the current striking options at the club.
No, I'm not convinced we would either. Daz, as we start over to you, Matt rightly brings up the fact that money and interest in the players is something that's really important. Now, obviously, we had the Fulham game, and I couldn't quite believe the post-match interview. Now, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to know that I'm a huge Marcus Rashford fan. People know that I'm not happy with it. People know that I'm annoyed with the way that the whole thing has ended up. People know that I think we should be playing Marcus Rashford regardless of what they might be thinking, because he is the best striker that is at this football club at the moment. He is a proven striker. He can score goals. And if you're going to play Anthony in a match, you might as well have played Marcus Rashford, because Anthony's not that much better in terms of attitude, in my opinion. You look at someone like Garnacho, he runs hot and cold, but he's had some pretty dodgy attitude moments as well. I feel like there has to be more with this Marcus Rashford situation. Now, I'm also fully accepting of the fact that it's Ruben Amorim's job, and if he wants to sack him and get rid of him and sell him off and do all of that, that's his lookout. That's part of what he's paid to do. And I will support that. If Marcus Rashford leaves the club, that's his decision. That's the right thing to do. But it strikes me as odd in the middle of a transfer window when you're putting things out. Like, if I was going to sell something, let's say I was trying to sell you this jumper, I wouldn't turn around to you and go, buy this jumper. It's got loads of holes in it. Like, I wouldn't do that. I would try and do the best things. So why on earth do you think Ruben Amorim thought it would be a good idea to even mention the 63-year-old goalkeeper coach? Now, there's a lot of people saying he's not having a go at Marcus Rashford. He says it's the standards for all the players. Those people are being disingenuous. I think they're just trying to sit there and stick up for Ruben Amorim because that's their flavour of the month that they want to stick up for. He doesn't mention the 63-year-old goalkeeping coach unless the question about Marcus Rashford is asked. He doesn't mention it. He's not going to be sitting there going, oh, I've got a thing to say about how I'm going to do this. He only did that because the Rashford question initiated the whole thing. So don't be stupid and sit there and try and go, oh, yeah, but he mentioned all the players. Yes, but it was because of the Marcus Rashford thing. That's why it happened. Now, why on earth would you say that? Because if you're a prospective employer, that's it. That's the equivalent of giving a bad reference for somebody who's going for a job. If they say to you, can we have a reference for this guy? Oh, he's terrible. Always turns up late for training. He's always absolutely pissed as a fart. He's terrible. Worst person you could ever want. He might as well have just come out and said that. But instead, he's giving it the old 63-year-old goalkeeper. I would rather put him on the bench than a player that doesn't give everything. That, to me, is not how you sell the person whose wages are going to cost the most. You're not talking about someone who's on 50 grand a week. This is a 375 grand a week player. And if you're turning around and saying he doesn't work hard, who's going to buy him? That's like going, would you like to buy this iPad? The battery is totally gone.
I think all of this, and again, you can call it a conspiracy theory. I think all of this is premeditated from the minute Amorim come in. It's nothing to do with Marcus Rashford. I think this is to do. You talk about how best to sell a player. You can't sell Marcus Rashford like that because he's in poor form, and unless he scores 30 goals, which then if he scores 30 goals, the fans are not going to let you get rid of him. So, and then Marcus Rashford isn't openly going to leave the club and no one else is going to pay him 350k a week. I think at the very first day Amorim sat down with Ineos Group, he said, this is the squad, what's the vision for the future? And I think the Ineos Group said, him at the top that's getting paid the most on 350 grand a week, he needs to be at the club. We can't afford him. The PSR won't allow us to keep Marcus Rashford. And you trying to get him sold while nothing's really happening at the club's quite odd because wages come into play. I think Ruben Amorim has picked a fight with him deliberately. He's bullied him to the point where Marcus Rashford will happily go to somewhere like Barcelona and say, pay me 250 grand a week, I just want out. And I think that's the plan. Putting Marcus Rashford in a position where he would happily lower his wages just to get out the club because they're ruining his career, they're ruining his reputation, they're ruining him. And I think it was I don't like the tactic. I really don't like the tactic. I think because like what you said, at the end of the day, he's a player in that squad that could score goals. I'm not saying he would, but he's the only one that could score goals. Anthony can't score goals. Xerxes can't score goals. Højlund can't score goals. Ahmed, at the minute, maybe only a 15-goal-a-year player. Same with Garnacho. Marcus Rashford can score goals. It's your job to get that out of him. So I'd rather have Ruben Amorim to nurture him and try to get that player out of him. But I think ultimately this is his wages have dictated this. I think the club want him out because of his wages. They want to lower the wage bill long term. They can't do that to the captain, but you can do it to a player that's in poor form. Because ultimately, the way they've done it, the fans have backed the manager because he's the new shiny toy that everyone likes. And Marcus Rashford's in poor form. So the fans have just got behind the decision. They've allowed it to happen. And I'm a massive fan of Marcus Rashford. And I can't condone his attitude in the last 18, 24 months. I think some of his attitude is stunk. But I said this to Andy Bean today, and he disagrees with me. Attitude reflects leadership. And the leadership that he has had in this club has stunk. And his attitude is reflected that. He would not have got away with what he's done in the last 18 months under Alex Ferguson and Roy Keane. It just wouldn't have been allowed. The leadership was too high, and it would not have been allowed.
He didn't behave that way under Ollie.
Pardon?
He had his best time under Ollie. He didn't behave like this under Ollie.
No, it didn't. And that's the thing. It didn't. It's not. I think that. I mean, we said this earlier in the season as well. I think he has been mismanaged as well. There's been times this season where he performed outstanding. I can't remember what game it was, and then he was dropped for the next game in the next game, and that eats your confidence. You're then expected to come back in and pick up where you left off 2 games ago. That's Ten Hag's fault because that happened under Ten Hag, but it was a mismanagement. And I genuinely think that Ruben Amorim has been told that we just need to drive him out the club. No one's going to buy him at 350k a week. We need him to want to leave on, mutually. Because ultimately we're paying Marcus Rashford, 50 plus million over the next 3 years. They won't have that. And not only that, is in terms of a PSR, they could save £50 million over the next 3 years, and then maybe get £30 million for him in a transfer. That's a massive deal, considering he's one of our own and we've not paid for him. I think it's a completely financial, premeditated decision, and it's happened during a transfer window. The comments about the goalkeeper and coach and stuff, I just think it's to force him out, and I think that Marcus Rashford's going to bite, and I think it is going to bite us in the arse, because I think, I've got it in my head, I think he's going to go to Barcelona, and I think he's going to take a lower wage. I don't know what that would be, and I think he's going to find his form again at Barcelona, and I'll probably win La Liga with him. And given the way they're playing in Europe, he could end up walking away with a Champions League medal before the end of the season as well. And
Maybe.
that would really sting Manchester United, and it would really it's a decision that if Ruben Amorim gets wrong, because ultimately he's the manager, it's going to be on his head because he's not played Marcus Rashford. This could be a decision that turns the fans against you very quick, especially if he goes to another club and scores 30, 40 goals, and wins the Champions League and wins the La Liga or wherever he might go. So I think he's playing Russian roulette at the minute with Marcus Rashford. But for me, Man United here's an idea. I think Marcus Rashford could have scored 10 goals if he'd have played. I genuinely think we could have got 10 goals out of him. 10 goals, and I know football doesn't work like this, but just to give you a fact, 10 goals, if we would have turned 5 of them draws into wins and 5 of them losses into draws, we would be in the top 4, even without changing the performances, just scoring 10 more goals. And we've had the chances to score 10 more goals.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting
one. Poor decision for me, really poor decision, but I think it's premeditated.
It's an interesting point. I mean, Matt, I'll let you have a little chat on this one, because I'm not convinced that it is. And if it is, I think it's the stupidest idea I've ever heard of in my life, because trying to bully somebody out of a position when they have got, by saying they're lazy, they don't do anything. I'm not being funny. If I was Marcus Rashford, I would dial in every single performance. I'd come in. I wouldn't give a monkeys while I'm going around. I'd be like, whatever. And I would take that money. Because ultimately you promised it to me. And the thing is that even if he goes at a lower wage, the club have still got to pay some of that contract back. They can't just sit there and go, oh, go on, then he's going to go for 200 grand. They're going to have to give him a settlement fee. So whatever happens, this is going to cost the club millions of pounds, which is why at the level that he's at, I think, Matt, they really should be looking to get some form of transfer fee, or at the very worst, a loan, whereby someone like Barcelona covers at least half the cost of the wages, because that will bring it down, and then they can look to buy. And if he works well at Barcelona, he's got the opportunity then to have the purchase made.
Yeah.
At the moment, that's not going to happen. If you just try and get him out by doing what they're doing, it doesn't feel like it's probably going to happen. I can still see him being here after the transfer window. And if he is, that's mental, because what are they going to do for the next few months? Is he going to then try and save face and say, well, actually, I always said there was a way back in? And he has said that, to be fair. But is Marcus Rashford really going to want to do it? Or will Marcus Rashford turn around and have that strength of character? Remember, that's his celebration to try and show him that actually this was a bit of a mistake, and it turns out to be a bit of a masterstroke, and he goes on to score 20 goals.
Yeah, it doesn't seem as though anything's going to change anytime soon, at the very least. Obviously, if that's going by what Amorim has been saying recently. Obviously, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Obviously, we can only go off what's being said in the media, what Amorim's coming out with, obviously, in press conferences. Again, I think a lot of it just comes down to the fact that it's Marcus Rashford, and I think the fact that Amorim's consistently getting asked the same questions, obviously after every game or every press conference. I suppose if there's any news or any development, we'd know about it. The club would communicate something, whether a move's imminent or is done, or we'd hear something from someone a bit more reliable. A lot of it is just speculation. There's nothing concrete. There's no move imminent by the sounds of things at the moment. So I think a lot of it is the fact that he's being questioned on it quite a lot when he's sort of trying to focus on the players that he doesn't have available. I'm guessing there is a reason why he's not been involved now for, I don't know how many games it's been. Is it nearly 10 games? I don't even know how many it's been now at this point. I think the only thing you could maybe question is the way it came across. Obviously, I can't imagine he meant it in a disrespectful sort of way. I think he was just trying to get his point across that he's got to set certain standards within the squad. And if the players fall below them standards for whatever reason, we don't know what the reason is with Rashford, then he's got to be the same with every player. Because then if he's soft on one player, then it's sort of other players sort of think, well, I can get away with.
You see, I think he has been.
Yeah.
That's my issue with all of this.
You can say you get rid of Rashford and you don't allow that when we've seen some of the performances we've seen. At the moment, Højlund's nowhere near it. Amad's the only one at the Xerxes, he had an awful one. He was taken off. He was booed by fans. You know, it all looked terrible for him. He comes back, scores a goal, and he's now all of a sudden God's gift because he's turned into Voetweg horse too, and he runs about a bit, but he still hasn't scored anything. Garnacho's been up and down. Like the whole front line.
Yeah.
I don't think you're talking about effort. You look at that Fulham game, where was it? So you can't tell me that Marcus Rashford is worse than all of these players in terms of attitude.
My issue's the consistency. If you do it for one player, like you say, you've got to do it for them all. Marcus Rashford deserves to be benched. I think we all agree with that. His attitude on the pitch didn't seem great. Not for 10 games. I think he deserves to have a game on the bench because his performances was poor. He wasn't really running a great deal. He got his bench. He got his bench like Garnacho did, but he didn't get a way back in. And I think, what more does he need to do? This is a guy that is well documented, that has been coming to extra training sessions. He's been really positive on social media with well done guys, good result guys, just the normal stuff, showing face. He's in the stadium watching the fans. I mean, rumour has it he's flew out with the Europa League team, although he's not part of the team, just to support them, and he's done that on his own back. What more does he need to do, to be given another opportunity to get in there? People say he's got a bad attitude, but an attitude, like I say, is a reflection of leadership. And if the leadership has changed, and Marcus Rashford has changed by putting extra training sessions in, is supporting the team a little bit more. He is a lot fitter because of all of the extra stuff he's been doing. He is supporting the team at games. That, to me, is a sign to give him an opportunity. Whether that's, let's take him to Europe, let's take him away, let's put him on the bench and give him 10 minutes, just as a first game. Let's see if his attitude changes on the pitch in that 10 minutes. If it does, let's put him back on the bench against Crystal Palace. At least give him a way in. But there doesn't seem to be a way in for him. It doesn't matter what he does or where he does it. Ruben Amorim is not going to give him another opportunity, which tells me that this is orchestrated just to get 300k off the wage bill.
I think the whole thing is disgusting. I genuinely do. I think the way that we've treated someone. I mean, I saw someone the other day say, "Oh, Marcus Rashford's never done anything anyway." Oh no, not at all. He's one of the top 15. He's the 15th top goal scorer of all time for this club. But no, he's not done anything for us. No, he's won a Europa League. He's won trophies with us. No, he's not done anything. It's genuinely, I think, quite a blot. And
yeah, I mean,
so I was for Amorim, but I'm not happy. I think
I'm such a big fan of Marcus Rashford as well. I mean, as everyone knows, I'm a massive fan of Marcus Rashford. Do you know what, because I'm such a big fan of him, do you know what I want him to do? I want him to fuck off to Man City and score 30 goals
Yeah.
and actually put one in the foot of Man United. Honestly, but because of how much I love him, I want him to go to Lazio and score the winner in the Europa League final against United. I really want that for him because of how poorly they've treated him. I mean, I've always said I'm a football fan before I'm a Man United fan. I want what's best for football. I want what's best for English football. And this is one of the reasons why I can get behind the England team and I can support different players from different teams. It's why I'm all up for the progression of the likes of Foden over the years, because it increases English football. It makes English football better. It makes us as a nation better, and I'm all for that. But like I say, the fact that a football club has treated a player, rightly or wrongly, so poorly, it's just disgraceful. And the fact that it's my own team that's done that, we should just be ashamed of ourselves.
I'm not going to lie, Daz, if there's anybody watching this, they might get a bit upset. The idea of them coming to score 30, but that's why you're controversial. Right. Last little bit really on this one, because, I mean, if you've got any other transfer things you want to shout out, do so on this round. But the last thing that I saw, and I'm not going to lie to you, if this happens, I very well might just go into some form of hibernation and not bother coming out again until at least another 20 years have gone past. Because there's rumours, thanks to Mr. Fabrizio, that a certain Paul Pogba was potentially going to be coming back in March, and there's bits posted where he's in his United kit and things like that. And it struck me. It really struck me, because the same people that are sitting here going, yeah, sack Rashford off, are the same people, by and large, who are going, I'd love to see Pogba come back again. And it just strikes me that if you're going to sit there and have a go at someone for effort, perhaps Paul Pogba is not the poster child for that, bearing in mind his level of effort was akin to the effort of an Easter egg walking. So, Matt, any other transfer things you want to throw out? And if we did get Paul Pogba, would that be enough for you to hand in your membership and maybe go and support, I don't know, Withenshaw?
I probably meant nothing. I probably won't go that quite that far. I think the way to look at it is from a fan's perspective. Obviously, you're always going to get fans that look at it and go, "Oh, we can always give Pogba another chance. He could come in and make a difference." Which, in fairness, who knows? He could come in and make a difference. We don't know, do we? Obviously, under Amorim. I think the way to look at it, though, I can't see it happening. Well, more the case, I can. It wouldn't surprise me if it happened, but I wouldn't like to see it happen myself necessarily. I don't see how we'd benefit by it. Because then you sort of regurgitating the problems of a few years ago when you offloaded the likes of Lingard, when there was talks that he was a disruption in the dressing room, the likes of Pogba, again going back to Rashford even. Obviously, all these players sort of get linked by the media or whoever as being the disruptions in the dressing room. So yeah, it wouldn't, being United, wouldn't surprise me. Ineos could look at it as a chance to get a big star, so to speak, back at the club. Again, it's more money for the club at the end of the day, isn't it? He'll sell shirts, comes back in, fans will be having his name on the back of the shirts again. It just happens every time. It's like when Ronaldo came back, and it'll just keep happening. So yeah, for me, it wouldn't surprise me. His Instagram post of the day was quite interesting. I did notice that's why I posted it on All for United, just to see what people thought, to be honest. It may not mean anything. He could just be doing it as like a joking. Who knows? But I'm sure we'll soon find out. I think he can play it from the 1st of March when his ban's over. So, again, it wouldn't surprise me if we see Pogba back in the United shirt. It really wouldn't. Even for a short term till the end of the season and just see how he does. But it wouldn't surprise me. But I wouldn't like it to happen personally.
Outrageous. Daz, anything else to add on the transfer window and your thoughts on what you would do? You said you're a football fan before you're a Man United fan. If Paul Pogba comes back, are you off to the Etihad?
I think people need to remove what they've heard in the media. So a lot of the media, for example, we're going to go back to the start quite briefly. People say that Paul Pogba originally left Manchester United as a youngster because Alex Ferguson said that he had a bad attitude from day one. That was, you've heard the stories. I actually watched an interview last year. It was an old interview with Gary Neville and Alex Ferguson on Lad Bible, and he was asked about Paul Pogba, and Alex Ferguson said, I wanted him to stay. We offered him a new contract, but we couldn't guarantee him the game time. Paul was at a stage in his career where he wanted game time, and I couldn't give it him. I was honest with him. I wish he'd have stayed, but he went on to Juventus, and I'm really glad he had a good time there. That was all Alex Ferguson said on him. So the media was obviously wrong to why he left Manchester United in the first place. He then went to Juventus, and he absolutely smashed it there. Obviously winning the World Cup with France in that period, considered one of the best midfielders in the world. People were, comparing him to Zidane at one point. Obviously, he wasn't close, but people, he was good enough to make the comparison. Not one person would be able to show you a single incident that would be considered negative surrounding Paul Pogba. Anyway, he comes back to Manchester United. Life starts great. There was this incident on the training ground with Jose Mourinho, all because Paul Pogba's social media agency posted a post or something during a game that Man United was losing. Wasn't Paul's fault, because if you look at the time of the tweet and then the clips of him in the crowd, didn't even have his phone in his hand at that point. So, it was evident that it was a social media manager. It wasn't Paul. If anything, I look back at that incident and I can't find one incident where Paul Pogba was negative towards Jose Mourinho, not even in the media. If anything, it was Jose that was the negative one, picking the fight with Paul. Obviously, when a manager's got an in for you, you're naturally going to impact your performances, because that's just the reality of leaders in a team. It then gets to a point where I think he just whittled out, and I think it was poor management from Manchester United where Paul disintegrated a little bit. I don't think he ever dropped below a 7 out of 10, ever. He was just never a 10 out of 10 after that incident. He then left Manchester United for a second time. Again, not one incident will you find where he's been negative in any way or a toxic player when he went back to Juventus, other than obviously the drug ban. But then that's just a silly decision. It's not necessarily a negative, toxic thing. Just a silly decision by the footballer, and he got caught. And even now, so people are saying he's a toxic player, but they can't evidence it with a credible source. They can't show evidence to back that up, which shows you that people are media-led. And I'm not naive enough to believe that Paul Pogba was the problem in the dressing room, given the fact that when he left, the problem didn't leave. The toxicness, so to speak, was still in the Man United dressing room. Could argue it's still there now. And obviously, Marcus Rashford's obviously the last one standing out of this, so potentially it is Marcus Rashford that's the toxicness in the dressing room. I don't believe that, but you then look at, would you take him back for starters? I don't think Man United have got money for a midfielder in this window. I don't think we've got money for a midfielder. So the question's going to be, do we go between now and the end of the season with Casemiro, who's not playing, and Eriksen, that's legs have gone and he's not got the quality anymore, and trust Collier and Mainu? And I don't believe that we improve with them. I don't think they're at that stage in their career where they can lift us as a team, although they are putting in good individual performances. Or do you go to someone like Paul Pogba that's proving he's got the quality about him, he's got the star appeal, and you say to him, from March to the end of the season, we are going to give you a contract with the intentions of reviewing it in the summer, and he's under the percent, it's a short-term deal, and we're going to bring you in at 130 grand a week, and then we've got him from March onwards, and then we make a decision in the summer. So for me, it's the difference between Paul Pogba or what we've got. For me, 100% I'd take Paul Pogba. If we've got 30-40 million pounds, 100% there's different midfielders I'd go for. I'd go for Locatelli at Juventus. There's players in the Premier League that I would go for over Pogba. But the issue is, Paul Pogba's free. He knows Manchester United really well. He knows the Premier League really well. It's a safer bet without having to spend money on a position that I think we need to bring in now. But obviously, money's going to be spent in more priority positions. So 100% I'll take Paul Pogba back, but it would have to be at the right wage. We couldn't bring him in even for 6 months at 300k a week. It would have to be the right wage, and he'd have to accept that because of the drugs ban and not played for 18 months, and the fact that no one else is going to pick him up until at least the summer, you know, that it's going to be a low wage. I've got no issues with that personally. I think he comes back as the same player that he was at Juventus the second time, he'd be our best player overnight. And that's quality we've not got, and quality that could win the Europa League.
Well, I completely disagree. Like, number one, when he comes back, he ain't going to be the player he was at Juventus. Like you said, he ain't played for 18 months. So it's going to take time for him to train. He's got to get into it. By the time he's into it, you're into April. By the time you've hit April, has he really fitted in? Maybe, but the season's pretty much over by that point. You've only got April and May left. So I'm not convinced in a short-term fashion you've got the ability to do that. I enjoyed your tale. I did. And you're right. You know, the media do hype things up. But I can recall him being booed off the pitch. And he was booed off the pitch because Paul Pogba had a stinking attitude on the pitch. And this is my point. When people talk about Rashford wandering around the pitch, Pogba did that. Pogba was the first person that was doing that. He was wandering around the pitch. He didn't seem to have that. He wasn't pressing. He was more bothered about what colour he was going to shade his hair this time. And that was constantly what Paul Pogba would do. And he was booed off the pitch. And he argued with some of the players. Ralph Rangnick was like, no, it's not right. You shouldn't do that. But he was. I'm fairly certain at one point there was a picture of him while he was injured rather than actually doing anything. There was a picture of him in a box, I think. And that was it. He'd taken a photo and put it on his Instagram of him just sat in a box. He was trolling the United fans because for the last year, he got paid a ridiculous amount of money. And for what? To do absolutely nothing. So I can't see a world in which personally I would want to see Paul Pogba back at the club. But there we go. That's the beauty of this wonderful football game of ours. We all have very different opinions as who we want to see, who we don't want to see. There's people out there that don't want Rashford. There's people that do. There's people out there that think Harry Maguire is absolutely superb. Some that don't. Some like Onana. Some like Bayindir. But I think we're pretty much all agreed that Bruno Fernandes is a bit of a god, really. And I'll finish this week's show with I thought was quite a wonderful tweet or an Instagram actually post that Bruno Fernandes put out there because Ella Toone, one of the women's football players for Manchester United, lost her dad in September, and she's written a really good piece about grief and how that affects you. And it was really nice to see that Bruno saw that, responded to it immediately, and was incredibly positive. And I think that Bruno Fernandes gets a lot of stick for not being a captain on the pitch. I think off the pitch, the things that we've seen, things such as offering to pay for the Christmas party so that everybody could do that himself, the things that he does off the pitch, I think is just tip top. I don't think anybody can have a go at Bruno for that one. So you might not like the way he throws his arms around, but off the pitch, what a captain that guy is turning out to be. Pleasure to have you guys with us again. Tomorrow, as we said, we've got Star Bucharest. We should be back at the weekend when we will be talking all the way through the Palace game and, of course, the Star Bucharest one as well. Matt, thank you. Lovely to have you with us again. No, we look forward to seeing you on the All for United Twitter page. And, of course, Daz, where can people find you? Because you're not on Twitter.
I'm over on TikTok. Normally follow me where the noise is.
Where the noise is.
The noise. I'm always in the loudest room.
Absolutely. Just type in his name. It won't take you long. You'll soon find. He follows us as well. So that's good on there. Brilliant. It's been superb to have you all on. Thank you so much. Cheers for those of you who have been watching along and those of you that have watched this back. Do like and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. Up the Reds.